Welcome to The Change Officer. I'm Rachel and I'm here with a very special guest, Bashar Kilani, who's the Managing Director of Accenture. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
It's so exciting to actually talk to you today because we are not only at GITEX, but we are on the break of Expo 2020, right? Where we've just opened, and I know that Accenture has a huge responsibility to play in that place. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
It's an exciting time in the UAE and Dubai. The transition into the new normal out of the pandemic has really been exemplary around the world. If you see what's happening at GITEX, 4,000 participants, 40% of that number is new participants, 700 new startups. It's exciting. But I think the bigger story in Dubai is the Expo story, with millions of visitors. And Accenture is the proud digital partner for Accenture for the Expo. It's actually a very interesting engagement that is helping users and visitors to enjoy an integrated, connected digital experience. It takes some time to put this digital infrastructure together and build a blueprint for a smart city, a sustainable smart city. So very exciting times in the UAE actually.
Let's talk about that a little bit more because that's a huge project, right? Expo of Dubai, and creating that blueprint. So if I was to say, who is Bashar? I'm going to say the guy that is known for digitalizing the Middle East region, and one of those responsible parties that is here to actually set that blueprint. So tell me, what does that blueprint look like? What parts and features are there?
Actually, when we talk about digitization in the Middle East, in the region, and let's talk a little bit wider than just the Expo or GITEX discussion, we're looking at a very young population. 70% of the population is less than 30 years of age. We are really looking at the digital natives that are connected, and they have a different way of expecting and expectations on how to interact and communicate with each other and how to do business. And of course, Expo is probably going to be the event that is going to give us an insight into the future. There are 192 countries participating, showcasing the best of innovation and future innovations that they are bringing to this part of the world, but also to show the rest of the world. I think digitization is going to be the topic to be discussed here at Expo and in many other places. I think we'll be talking about an experience that we all went through in the last few months, which is the compressed digital transformation, where all organizations, individuals, businesses had to go through an accelerated digitization. Whatever used to take 5 or 6 years in order to redesign your digital infrastructure or move to the cloud had to be done in a year or a year and a half or less. That kind of experience has really been transformative, and we've seen that out of this there has been companies that managed to do this successfully and emerged as leaders, and other companies that were lagging and did not get to do that transformation in time, and the gap between the leaders and the laggers has really exceeded and became very big during this last 18 months. I think in GITEX and in Expo, but also I'm talking about the UAE in general, the speed at which digital transformation has happened across all sectors and segments is really amazing.
Would you say the Middle East in general had probably been affected the most with this digitalization, as far as worldly, globally, looking at other countries and how the digitalization had to be basically scaled at such a huge amount? Would you say the Middle East is one of those regions that really was able to take advantage of that process?
Of course, when we talk the Middle East, we're talking about a big neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah? but reality is, if you look at the UAE, Saudi Arabia, the GCC, if you look at countries like Egypt and Jordan, you definitely see a huge transformation. You see a huge adoption of the digital economy. You see a lot of startups, you see a lot of organizations behaving like startups, reinventing their digital footprint, because that's really what is needed to survive. And I think the Middle East was probably, in general, maybe faster and quicker to move into the digital economy than other parts around the world.
What do you think the direct value proposition for those that were able to scale and digitalize quickly, what are some of the advantages they were able to receive through that process?
I think studies show that those companies that managed the transformation really benefited from a business point of view, and they were 5 times better off than companies that were struggling with the digital transformation, and that's a huge market. Today, when you look at all the business interactions, the supply chain, the smart city concepts, it's really building everything on the digital infrastructure that you have, and it's integrating the components of the digital economy. The concept of digital twins has become very, very important for us to understand and simulate business processes on how to create value, how to capture value, how to create a business model that lives in the digital world and creates digital value for everyone. So quite a transformation that happened in a very short time, that not only impacted the technology but also the way we do business and the human aspect of it. Let's not forget the workforce of the future. We're all going to be changing the way we used to work, how we are going to the office, how we are interacting with our teams, how we are communicating with suppliers, with customers, with vendors, and so on. That's all going to be going through a major, profound change. And that's going to be here to continue. It's going to stay like this and actually evolve in a very fast way.
Very fast way. It's like put your safety belt on, get ready for the ride, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about a little bit more about how those specific ways of people engagement has been, transitioned throughout Accenture, and even maybe about Expo, about how you're implementing some things of how the way people engage at these type of events?
Absolutely. I think the pandemic has really set a new blueprint for the way we do business beyond the pandemic and the new world that we're looking at. Today, I'd say the way we engage with our customers and partners has fundamentally changed. It's going to be digital first, yeah? Whether you talk about telemedicine, you talk about interacting with government, you're interacting with partners and suppliers, digital first has probably become the norm today. There are much less in-person meetings. They are higher quality, probably more focused, but reality is we are more efficient and effective in the way we communicate and interact with all the people that we do business with, whether it's colleagues internal of the organization or outside of these organizations. Second point is huge adoption of technology and digitization. I think we've embedded technology in everything now. The Internet of Things is everywhere, it's real, we've got data all around us, and we're creating value out of this, and we're creating digital twins for everything. We're creating digital twins for our cities, for our airports, for our buildings, for our events, and that makes them more hybrid, it makes them easier to integrate with, interact with, and so on. So this technology revolution has also become something very interesting. I think the third one, which we already touched upon, is the workforce of the future, how we get to work and do business and so on. But the important aspect also is sustainability. I think everybody's now become much more aware and interested in sustainability and how they can actually do their business in a more sustainable way to help everyone around us, actually.
100%. And I like that you touched on hybrid, because that's a term that this region's been hearing for a while. I think there's been hesitation of the cloud, previously, and it's nice to see that there's a transition going to the cloud and being open to that. How does that impact your business and the customers that you guys appeal to right now?
Sure. Every time you move from one environment to the other, you probably have to build a hybrid system or environment to take you there, because that's the nature of thing. And most of the businesses that we are working with, they're moving to the cloud, for example. There's a hybrid phase where for the next few years they will be having on-premise data centers. They will have some of their data in the cloud, and they have to work with that. When we talk about businesses, they will probably have to have an on-premise business, but also they will be working in a hybrid way using technology and digital interactions with their suppliers and people around the world. So I think the word hybrid is very fashionable these days, but it applies to many things. Yeah? Most of these events, as we see them, they will probably be hybrid events between virtual and in-person events. Yeah? And you have to find that sweet middle that enables everybody to participate and get value out of these kind of things. So I think we are all going to be in a accelerated phase of transition. Hybrid is probably going to be the name of the game, whether it's on the technology side and talking about cloud, but cars, electric vehicles, many of the things that we are doing, and these events here are probably going to be more and more hybrid events because they will have in-person participants, but many participating virtually from all over the world.
Would you say that part of the digitalization really is about connections and the connections of people? Do you see that impacting specifically? Like, is there any part of the digitalization that helps that connection become stronger, within your organization?
I think digitization is about connection, automation, streamlining business processes. That's extremely important. But then once you've done that, you've established the connections, you've streamlined your business processes, now you can scale. Now you can increase the scope and move from one environment to the other, from one business to another, and you can really take it to the next level. And we've seen that all these digital platforms, they are intended for one thing at the beginning, and then they scale to cover many other digital environments and processes across the board. And finally, the important and nice thing about digitization is the ability to learn. When you ingest artificial intelligence into these business processes, you can learn from the data that's generated, and you can improve the experience as it happens. And that's a continuous circle that makes this an ever-improving kind of engagement. In many cases, it's really taking the business or the environment that we're in into a completely different level.
Right, we're going into like another atmosphere almost, the way we're communicating. Is there any particular type of this or part of this digitalization that you really have a soft spot and, for, that you're really excited for what's coming and what Accenture is bringing us in the future?
Well, I think artificial intelligence is going to be a very interesting part of our life. Today we have AI embedded in most of the apps that we use, in our mobile phones, in everything we see around us. It's going to be something similar to electricity and the effect it created for the economies around it. So I think what electricity was for the previous century, AI is probably going to be for the coming century. And of course, with that comes a lot of new technologies like virtual reality that will really give you an immersive experience. You can be sitting in Dubai and engaged in a conference in New York and be there almost in person, or almost in real time. But that also means that you can actually use this technology for robotics, for really integrating supply chains. It's going to be a very different world from the world we're in today. So my soft spot today is really for artificial intelligence and data and everything we can do around that.
Very, very cool, very cool. I think that's a little bit of mine as well. I always like to see what's coming, looking at the robots and what's next. What are they going to be able to do, and how are they able to support us today, on our day-to-day journey through life in general, right?
Absolutely. I like to call it augmented intelligence because really it helps humans be better in what they do. It helps the doctors be better in the way they treat the patients. It helps the managers be better in the way they manage the data and the business. It helps lawyers be better in the way they understand the environment and the circumstances. So really, I can think there will be a whole new set of technologies that will augment people's intelligence and make us more effective, efficient, and capable.
Augmented intelligence. Yes, hashtag Bashar Kilani. I like it. I was like, I think this is your new hashtag, This is something great tagline to brand, specifically about this digital journey that you're taking humans on and specifically businesses around the region, to engage and understand how the value Accenture brings to the table can add value to us personally, and it's very exciting. So what would you say is probably the top 3 tips you want to give any business who's looking to digitalize when it comes to, there's so many different opportunities and so many things to focus on. What are the top 3 tips that you'd provide?
I would say when you look at your environment, think digital first, data first, AI first. Let that be your main focus always. Think digital first. Second is always the human aspect. We need to make sure that the workforce of the future is trained, integrated, enabled to work in this kind of environment. And I think cybersecurity is going to be very important moving forward. That's probably going to be one of the most important elements for people to focus on.
Definitely, security is a big topic. How they're going to save all that data so the hackers don't get in, and and what's that risk, and what's those privacy conversations?
Yeah, I heard one statistic that 80% of crimes will be digital or cyber crimes in the near future. And what does that mean? What does that mean to law enforcement organizations? What does that mean to organizations, businesses? How can they protect themselves? What kind of skills do they need? What kind of capabilities do they need to build into it? Because we're probably moving into a world where we have a very different understanding of security.
Definitely. And so can you touch more about how Accenture is actually adding value there and providing some kind of solution and value proposition to those kind of problems that are going to be experienced in the near future?
Absolutely. It's really part of the digital transformation. It's not something that's done on its own, and you can't really do enough. It's very important to have an integrated strategy that really covers all aspects of your digital infrastructure, but also the human element that goes with it, and also be ready in case or when something happens. What are the plans and the dynamics that organizations need to have in place in order to be ready for things like that?
Definitely. So I would say more of a preventative kind of strategy.
Absolutely. Always try and be ahead.
Definitely. There's no question about that. So I have an interesting question about, I always like to hear from change officers, specifically you've experienced a lot in your personal journey, and is there one time in your career that you can say, this is a problem that I ran into that I could share with others so they don't have that same experience of running into a similar problem? Is there some problem that has come up numerous times in your career that maybe you can help guide other people to hide or maybe prevent from happening to them in the future?
I think problems come every day, and and it's really about being or trying to be prepared and trying to anticipate things. Yeah. What I really like about Dubai and the UAE is the fact that we're always anticipating the future. We're always trying to see what's coming ahead and try as much as possible to be ready and prepare. And of course, these kind of forward-looking initiatives always help you think about what things can go wrong, and if they go wrong, where can you actually go, and what are the things that you need to do in order to avoid them or deal with them or understand how to work with them. I think the name of the game these days is agility. Yeah? So when we talk about digitization, we also need to be agile. And that means that we will probably need to be able to fail fast and quickly understand the implications and recover and move on. So agility is probably a quality that's very important in the digital age. Another important one is also systematic design involving different stakeholders, using advanced methodologies like design thinking to develop processes and understand how the different stakeholders work together. But it's all falling in one place, and I think agility is an important thing at this time.
Amazing. Okay, and just do you know that you're a role model for many people? I always like to remind people, like, you are a role model for people, and I want to just not only thank you for your time, but also thank you for the insight that you're giving us as a business leader in the region, right? Because a lot of people will be listening and hearing what you're doing and what's exciting to you, and how do I you're leading by example, right? So if you were to say something to younger people from the region or even around the world that are looking to come into Dubai to explore these type of opportunities, what would it be?
I think the younger generation in this part of the world is very lucky to have a place like the UAE or Dubai that gives them inspiration and gives them support and also provides a platform. I'm in touch with many entrepreneurs or startups in the UAE, but also outside in the region. Very young people, very ambitious, clever, great ideas, very smart concept. And of course, coming to the UAE is always for them an inspiration, because it's the platform that enables them to connect with like-minded people, but also to innovate and think beyond the norms and think out of the box, as people think it. And really, there's no limit to what can be achieved in this part of the world, especially with such a young, dynamic and well-educated youth.
Definitely. Well, I'm so excited to see what Accenture is doing at Expo specifically, and really understanding that blueprint a little bit more about the customer engagement, maybe even all the, pavilions that are there.
Absolutely. You're very welcome to come and visit us at the Exchange. We've got the Accenture Exchange Hub at the Expo, and we're very happy to host you there and have a deeper discussion on the engagement and the experience around Expo.
Amazing. And what do you think are some of those things that, some of the teasers that we can tell our audience what you'll see if you come down there to check out what you're doing?
You'll definitely see an experience that will excite, engage, and inform users and connect and inspire.
Amazing. I can't wait to connect and inspire using Accenture as a platform for the Expo.
So absolutely. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And we're very proud to be the digital premier partner for Expo. Such an event, such a landmark for this part of the world, for the region. First time an Expo in this part of the world at this scale. Millions of visitors at a time when the world is moving into the new normal, setting the stage for the post-pandemic world. Really excited to be part of that.
Yeah, me too. So I'm so excited I got an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about it. There's some exciting things, digitalizing, the new normal. You've talked about so many fabulous augmented realities for us that we look forward to. And I'm so glad you can get to be a part of that and share your story. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.